Have you ever felt like you're living the same pain over and over again? It might wear a different mask, show up in a different situation, but deep down, the feeling is hauntingly familiar. That same knot of anxiety in your chest when a relationship feels unstable. That same cold wave of disappointment when a career doesn't live up to its promise. That same quiet, hollow ache of feeling that somehow you've never been enough. It's like a shadow that follows you. You think you've outrun it. You move to a new city, start a new chapter, meet new people, believing this time will be different. You do everything you're supposed to do to heal and move on. And yet, somehow, the old pattern finds you again. The echo of that old wound reappears, making you wonder if you're destined to repeat this cycle forever. It's exhausting. It's disheartening. And it can make you feel utterly alone in your struggle. If this sounds familiar, I want you to hear this from the bottom of your heart. You are not broken. You are not cursed by bad luck. You are simply caught in a cycle as ancient as the human mind itself. But what if there was a way to end that echo? The ancient wisdom of Buddhism teaches us that the root of this repetition doesn't lie in the stars, nor is it a punishment from the outside world. It lies deep within the hidden patterns of our own consciousness. The Buddha taught that we suffer not because of what happens to us, but because of what we unconsciously do with it in our minds. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you 6 profound teachings from this timeless wisdom. This isn't about avoiding or pretending the pain doesn't exist. It's about learning to meet that pain with such deep understanding and vast compassion that the cycle can naturally be untangled from its very root. This journey isn't a fight against your past. It's a journey of creating peace with your present. It begins with understanding the first layer of illusion that keeps us trapped. So, take a deep, gentle breath. Let your shoulders soften. And let's begin with the first key, a foundational insight that will completely change how you see the stories you tell yourself. Breaking the cycle of rumination. What if I told you that it's not the original wound, but the story you tell yourself about it every day that's keeping you imprisoned? Not the memory, but the replaying of the memory in your mind. Not the event, but our judgment of the event. This is one of the most profound truths about how our minds create suffering. In his Treasury of Wisdom, the Buddha offered a deeply insightful metaphor known as the second arrow. Imagine this. The first arrow is the painful event that happens to you. A hurtful word, a loss, a failure. It's unexpected. It happens. And in this life, no one can avoid being struck by such arrows. But the second arrow, the Buddha taught, is the one we shoot at ourselves. The second arrow is our reaction. It's the stream of thoughts like, why me? I should have. It's not fair. It's the self-torment, the resentment, the endless regret. The Buddha taught that while the first arrow causes pain, it's the second arrow that creates suffering. Imagine the story of Mark, who was just laid off. The first arrow, of course, is the event of losing his job. The feelings of shock, sadness, and anxiety are natural. That is pain. But instead of allowing those feelings to pass, Mark continuously shoots himself with a second, third, and fourth arrow. Every night, he lies awake, replaying the conversation with his boss in his head. He torments himself. I'm useless. I should have worked harder. He stews in anger and bitterness, thinking about the unfairness of the company. The initial wound from losing his job, which could have healed, is now deepened by hundreds of self-inflicted arrows. His pain has turned into suffering, into a crisis of identity and self-worth. What Mark is experiencing, modern neuroscience calls the creation of neural pathways. Every time you repeat a negative thought, you're like a hiker walking the same trail in the forest of your mind. The more you walk it, the clearer the path becomes, and the more automatically your mind will take that path in the future. This is why ruminating on pain can feel so addictive. Our biggest mistake is to confuse thinking about the problem with solving the problem. We believe that if we analyze enough, torment ourselves long enough, the past will somehow change, or a magical answer will appear. But in reality, we are just watering the tree of suffering, causing its roots to grip our souls even tighter. So what's the lesson here? It's to learn the difference between pain and suffering, to realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. And here's how you can practice this. It's a simple but incredibly powerful method called note and release. The next time a painful thought stream from the past arises, instead of getting swept away by it, try this. Pause for a moment. Breathe, and gently say in your head, "Ah, this is a thought about the past," or more simply, thinking. You don't need to push it away. You don't need to judge it. Just acknowledge its presence, like watching a cloud pass in the sky. Then gently guide your attention back to your breath, or the feeling of your feet on the ground. Every time you do this, you are refusing to shoot the second arrow at yourself. You are creating precious space between you and your story, and it is in that space that true healing begins. 2. Releasing trapped energy. What if I told you that the ghost of your past doesn't just live in your head, but actually resides in your shoulders, your stomach, your jaw, those unexplained headaches, that chronic neck tension, or that tightening in your gut when you're anxious? These are not just physical symptoms. They are the language of your body telling a story your mind may have tried to forget. One of the most foundational teachings of the Buddha, recorded in the Satipatthana Sutta, is the practice of mindfulness of the body. He taught that mind and body are not two separate entities. They are a continuous flow of experience. Every psychological experience, every emotion, has a corresponding expression in the body as a sensation, vedana. When we suppress a strong emotion, like fear, anger, or sadness, and don't allow it to be expressed and released, its energy doesn't disappear. It gets frozen, trapped in the muscles and tissues of our body. Consider the story of Emily. Outwardly, she's a successful, confident woman, but she suffered from chronic migraines and neck pain for years, with no clear medical cause despite seeing many doctors. Through self-exploration, she realized her pain always flared up most intensely whenever she faced pressure to be perfect, or feared criticism. The fear of being harshly criticized by her parents in childhood hadn't left. It had taken up residence in her body all these years, in the form of tension in her neck and shoulders whenever she felt she wasn't good enough. Emily's story is not unique. Modern science has now proven what ancient wisdom knew long ago through the concept of the autonomic nervous system and the fight-flight-freeze response. When faced with a threat, whether it's a real tiger or criticism from a boss, our bodies flood with stress hormones. If this energy isn't discharged through action, it gets trapped. Emily's body was still frozen in the fear of a child, even as an adult. The most common mistake is that we treat our bodies like a machine that needs fixing, separate from our emotional life. We take painkillers, go to physical therapy, but ignore the message the pain is trying to send. We try to think our way out of pain without realizing we need to feel our way to releasing it. The lesson here is, your body is a wise teacher, not an enemy. It never lies. Your pain, your tension is telling a story. Learn to listen. And this is how we start listening. A practice called body scan meditation. You don't need to do anything complicated. Just find a quiet place to lie down. Close your eyes and gently bring your attention down to your toes. What do you feel there? Warmth, coolness, tingling, or nothing at all? Whatever it is, just notice it. Then, slowly move your attention up to your feet, ankles, calves, continuing like this, moving through your entire body up to the crown of your head. You don't need to change anything. The goal isn't to relax, but to be aware. When you pass through a tense area, try breathing into that very spot, bringing a gentle curiosity as if you're saying, I'm here with you. I'm listening. This practice helps reconnect the severed pathways between mind and body. It allows trapped energies to begin to melt, not through force, but through acceptance and awareness. The tyranny of a question. There is a single question that can keep you trapped in the past forever. It acts like a labyrinth with no exit, sending your mind spinning in resentment and helplessness. And there is a small change in that question, a subtle but powerful shift that can set you free. In the spiritual journey, the questions we ask shape our entire reality. The whole of Buddhist philosophy is about transforming suffering, dukkha, into the path of enlightenment. Instead of asking a question that looks to the past and never has a satisfying answer, why me? This wisdom teaches us to ask a question that looks to the present and future. What is this pain trying to teach me? Or, how can I grow from this? This change is not small. It is the shift from passive endurance to active learning. Think about the story of David, who went through an incredibly painful divorce. For months, he was consumed by the question, why would she do this to me? He replayed every memory, searched for faults, analyzed every word. That question dragged him into a spiral of bitterness and regret. He became a victim of his past, and his life came to a complete standstill. One day, exhausted by his own torment, he started to try asking a different question. Okay, this happened, so what opportunity is this experience giving me to learn about myself? This new question opened a completely different door. He began to see lessons about attachment, about how he had placed his happiness in someone else's hands, and about his deep-seated need to be loved and accepted. The pain was still there, but now it was no longer a meaningless punishment. It had become a teacher. The question, why me, casts us in the role of a passive victim. It directs our attention outward, searching for a culprit or an explanation to blame. It is an energy-draining question. Conversely, the question, what's the lesson here, returns power to us. It directs our attention inward, to the only place we have control, our own attitude and growth. It transforms us from a victim of circumstance into an alchemist, one who can turn the lead of pain into the gold of wisdom. A common mistake is to confuse looking for a lesson with self-blame or excusing the wrong behavior of others. This is not about saying it was my fault. Not at all. This is about saying, this event happened. Now where does my power lie? What meaning can I create from these ashes? The lesson here is, you can't change the cards you were dealt, but you always have the power to decide how to play them. You can't change the past, but you can always change the meaning it has for you in the present. And here is how you can practice this today. Get a notebook and a pen. Think of a painful experience you're carrying. Instead of writing out the question, why, answer these 3 questions. What strength did this experience reveal in me that I didn't know I had? Perhaps it was resilience, patience, or the ability to endure. What did it teach me about what I truly value in life? Perhaps it taught you the value of honesty, inner peace, or genuine relationships. How can I use this lesson to be more compassionate toward myself and others in the future? Answering these questions will begin the process of transforming your pain from a burden into a source of strength. The borrowed ghosts. What if I told you that much of the burden you carry, the anxiety you face, is not actually yours? It's an invisible inheritance, a borrowed ghost from those who came before you. A nameless pain you're carrying on behalf of an entire lineage. In Buddhist wisdom, the concept of karma is not just individual. We also inherit family karma and community karma. This means that beliefs, fears, and even unhealed traumas can be passed down from one generation to the next unconsciously. Just like eye color or gait, the Buddha taught the importance of clear seeing, right view, to discern the true origin of these sufferings, to distinguish what is ours and what we are carrying for others. Listen to the story of Maria. She always felt an overwhelming anxiety about money, Even though she had a stable job and was not in need, she obsessively saved every penny and always lived as if preparing for an impending financial disaster. This fear was like a dark cloud constantly hanging over her head. Later, while learning about her family history, she realized that this fear didn't truly originate from her circumstances. It was an echo from her grandmother, who had lived through the Great Depression and lost everything. Her grandmother had lived the rest of her life in extreme fear of scarcity. Maria had unconsciously borrowed that emotional burden and carried it as if it were her own. What Buddhism calls family karma, modern psychology calls generational trauma. These patterns of behavior and emotional reactions are passed down through how we are raised, the stories we hear, and even the things that are never spoken in a family. The biggest mistake is that we blame ourselves for having irrational or excessive emotions. We ask ourselves, why am I so anxious? We don't realize that we are reacting to an old family wound, a pain that we didn't create but is manifesting through us. The lesson here is, you can honor your family's past without having to relive it. You have the right to be free, and that freedom begins by recognizing and returning what is not yours with all gratitude and respect. Try practicing this small ritual. Find a quiet place and close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths. Imagine you are standing before your parents and your grandparents and the generations before them. See them with compassion, without judgment. Then, place your hand on your heart and say silently, I see the burden you carried. I am grateful for my life, grateful for all the sacrifices, but this burden is yours. I ask for permission to return it with all love and respect, so that I may live my own life fully and freely. This small ritual is not an act of rejection or disrespect. On the contrary, it is an act of deep love, loving your ancestors by allowing them to rest, and loving yourself by allowing yourself to live your own life. 5. The ego's favorite prison. We've talked about the stories in the mind, the pain in the body, the borrowed burdens. But now we will touch the deepest root of attachment. What if I told you that the most ruthless warden is a part of you that mistakenly believes, without this pain, who would you be? One of the most profoundly liberating and perhaps most misunderstood teachings of the Buddha is about no self, anatta. It doesn't mean you don't exist. It means there is no fixed, unchanging, permanent I. You are a process, a constantly changing flow of mind and body elements. However, our ego craves a solid identity, a clear definition. And sometimes, to get that sense of existence, it latches onto a story of suffering. I am the one who was betrayed. I am a survivor of a difficult childhood. I am an anxious person. Because that story, however painful, provides a sense of identity, a definition of who I am. To let go of the pain, for the ego, can feel like an annihilation, a death. Look at the story of John, a combat veteran. For years, his entire identity revolved around being a soldier wounded by war. Every conversation, every relationship was filtered through the lens of his PTSD. It defined him. As he began his healing process and the symptoms started to fade, a sudden sense of emptiness and fear washed over him. He asked himself, if I'm no longer the wounded soldier, then who am I? The story of pain had become so familiar that a life without it felt foreign and terrifying. Letting go of the old story, letting go of that familiar identity, was one of the hardest but also one of the most liberating parts of his journey to find the true self behind the wound. The ego loves familiarity, even if it's the familiarity of misery. The prison of pain has clear rules. The outside world of healing is uncertain and can seem scarier. The most subtle but common mistake lies in our very language. Instead of saying, I feel sad, we say, I am a sad person. Instead of, I experienced a failure, we say, I am a failure. Do you see the difference? The first statement describes a fleeting emotion. The second turns it into a life sentence. A core identity. We have unconsciously identified ourselves with our pain. The lesson here is, you are the sky, not the passing clouds. Your experiences are not who you are. You are vaster than any story, any pain, and here is how you can begin to experience this truth, a practice called self-inquiry. When a strong emotion or an old story arises and you feel yourself about to be swallowed by it, gently pause and ask, who is experiencing this? This question doesn't need a logical answer. The question itself creates a space, a small separation, between you, the observer, and the story, the observed. You can also repeat this mantra in your mind. I have thoughts, but I am not my thoughts. I have emotions, but I am not my emotions. Every time you practice this, you are gently loosening the ego's grip. You are reminding yourself that you are the vast space of awareness in which all experiences can come and go without leaving a single scar on your true nature. The art of kintsugi, turning scars into strength. Is there an ancient Japanese philosophy that can teach us that the places where we are broken are the very places where we become the strongest and most beautiful? It's called kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery, with lacquer mixed with gold. Instead of hiding the cracks, the artisans celebrate them, turning them into brilliant golden seams, making the object more unique and precious than before it was broken. The art of kintsugi is not just a craft. It is deeply inspired by the spirit of Zen Buddhism and the concept of wabi-sabi, the beauty of things imperfect, impermanent, and incomplete. It resonates perfectly with the teaching of Thich Nhat Hanh. No mud, no lotus. The mud of suffering, of our brokenness, is not something to be discarded or hidden. It is the very nutrient necessary for the lotus flower of wisdom and compassion to bloom. Think of the story of a mother who lost her child. An incomparable pain, a shattering to the very core. Initially, she was drowning in grief, feeling that her life had been broken into irreparable pieces. But instead of being submerged by the pain, she chose to use those very pieces to create something meaningful. She founded a charitable organization to help families in similar situations, offering them comfort and hope. Her deepest wound became the source of her greatest compassion and purpose. She used the gold of love and service to mend the cracks of her life, making it more radiant than ever before. This mother's journey is a living testament to what psychology calls post-traumatic growth. Research shows that people who endure great adversity often report a greater appreciation for life, deeper relationships, greater inner strength, and a new sense of purpose. They don't just recover, they evolve. The biggest mistake on the healing journey is trying to get back to the way things were. The truth is, you will never be the same, and that is not a bad thing. The goal is not to erase the scar, but to integrate it into your new self wisely and with more strength. The final and most hopeful lesson here is, your wound is not a source of shame. It is proof that you have lived, fought, and survived. It is the gateway to your deepest wisdom and compassion. Now, I invite you to perform a small ritual to end our journey through these 6 teachings. It's called the ceremony of honoring the scar. Think of a scar of yours. It could be a spiritual scar, a painful memory, a loss. Instead of feeling ashamed or wanting to hide it, try placing your hand on your heart or on the place in your body where you feel that pain. Close your eyes and take a deep breath and say silently, "Thank you. Thank you for showing me my strength. Thank you for the lesson you brought. You are not my weakness. You are part of my unique story. See it as a golden seam, a beautiful part, that has made you the deep, resilient, and compassionate person you are today." The journey we have just taken through these 6 teachings is not a fight against pain. It is a homecoming to yourself. Imagine this. Just as the sky is never harmed by the storms that pass through it, your true nature, that quiet, luminous awareness, is never damaged by the experiences of your life. pain, memories, emotions, stories. They are like the clouds. They come and go. They may obscure the sunlight for a while, but they can never harm the sky. You are the sky. Remember, you are not broken. You are being mended with gold. Every mindful breath you take, every moment you offer yourself compassion, every time you choose to ask a wiser question, that is a brushstroke of gold on your cracks. This journey may not always be easy, but it will always lead you home, to the peace that is always there, waiting for you inside. I would love to read your sharings in the comments after this journey. Which lesson touched you the most deeply? What cycle in your life do you feel ready to begin untangling? If these words have brought you a little peace, please share this video with someone you think needs to hear it. And please, subscribe to the channel so we can continue to walk this path of discovering wisdom and healing together. Thank you for your time and energy in being here today. Wishing you a peaceful day.